Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about Gemini celebrities, and I'm going to be using examples for people that have Gemini Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. So anyway, first thing off is, well, the first example I want to talk about as far as Gemini celebrities goes is Gemini rising actor Matthew McConaughey. Gemini is a sign that is known to be very mercurial, fickle, and changeable. Now, actor Matthew McConaughey, I believe, is no exception. I was watching TMZ a number of times, and it seems like virtually every time I would watch it, I would see Matthew McConaughey in a segment where they would show him, and he would show a little different side to his personality. Gemini can be very multifaceted. You look at this, one time he seemed very amiable and friendly, and he waved to somebody, and while he was jogging, I think, and then another time he was on TMZ, he became very exasperated and irritated. It may have been at a TMZ reporters, I should say, for being on what apparently was either, it was some private property he had stated. I don't know if it was his or if it was somebody else's, but he kept saying to them something like, "You're going to be stupid," or "You're going to be stupid," and he approached them in a confrontational manner. But anyway, then there was another time when I saw him, it was either on TMZ or another show or another television show or what have you, and somebody was approaching him and trying to speak to him, I believe, and he just looked at him and just would not respond. So that being said, there's another good example, I think, of a Gemini celebrity is former NFL head coach Jeff Fisher. Now, he has, now I don't know if he's going to be coaching next season or not, but as of right now, he isn't. So anyway, he has been known a number of times to use a little Gemini trickeration in his coaching. When I say trickeration, I'm just kind of being facetious. Anyway. Well, and he uses this in order to outmaneuver the opposition, which of course Gemini is very good at. Now, in a 2006, I believe it was, NFL game between the Titans and Colts, the Titans coaching staff tricked the Colts into calling a timeout by having Titans players walking on and off the field constantly. Now, the Colts became confused, apparently, and they didn't know what to do. They were bewildered. Perplexed. They didn't know what the heck was going on. So at that time, because of that, they called, I believe, likely Tony Dungy, the head coach of the Colts at the time, called the timeout. And you're probably thinking, well, how is that the big a deal if they call a timeout? Well, because what I think that the point, the ploy and the scheme was, in terms of tricking them into calling a timeout, that left them with one less time out toward the end of the game or at a critical juncture when they may have needed it more, when it might have been more important for them to actually have it. So, and really, and I think this really shows a lot of that Gemini rising comes out in Jeff Fisher when he runs his trick plays. So anyway, another example I want to talk about, I have said in previous videos that I strongly believe that actors and actresses, well, they may be, at least on a subconscious level, if not conscious at times, be drawn and pulled toward roles that correspond with their astrological energy. Now, from what I remember, on a couple of episodes of Columbo, which of course starred Peter Falk as the detective on the show, Robert Culp is an actor who has Gemini rising, I should say, the late actor Robert Culp, and he played a bad guy in a couple episodes and tried to outmaneuver Detective Columbo, Peter Falk, who likely, depending on time of birth, has a Gemini moon. Now, on both occasions, however, the person who likely had Gemini moon, which of course is Peter Falk, outsmarted the Gemini rising person. And of course, Peter Falk had a sun in Virgo, so Virgo is very analytical, punctilious with details. They hardly miss a trick. So they're no slouch when it comes to figuring things out anyway and problem solving. that being said, what Peter Falk would do at the end of the episodes, he would give a long, elaborate dissertation in which he would explain how the perpetrator committed the crime. And on both episodes at the end, at least one of them anyway, Robert Culp had a bewildered expression on his face. Hey, perhaps he was thinking, hey, I have Gemini rising. How were you able to do that? I'm only joking, of course. But anyway, some other examples as far as Gemini celebrities go, and people that really, show that they resonate with this Gemini astrological energy. I think one of them that comes to mind is, you look at Richard Dean Anderson, who of course is from MacGyver renown. He's from the original MacGyver series. And, he always, he'd find some way to extricate himself using things that were improvised to get himself out of predicaments. And, whether it was using ropes and in jugs of water, or maybe I've thrown this out there, maybe using a credit card to defuse a bomb. I think he may have done that in one episode, actually, but you understand what I'm saying. He'd always find some ways to outmaneuver or outsmart the problem. A lot of that, it showed that in that Aquarius, like in Sun and Aquarius ingenuity, but it was used in a very quick-witted manner and used to outsmart the opposition, outmaneuver the opposition, which is very Gemini energy, I believe. And it shows me that that really seems to correspond with really a lot of the Gemini rising energy that that Richard Dean Anderson has. Now, another celebrity that I think is interesting is you look at NBA superstar, prolific NBA player LeBron James, who has Gemini rising. Now, there was an article one time in Sports Illustrated, I believe, on the cover of it, of one of the issues that read the unique ubiquity of LeBron James. And, Gemini is known to be very versatile, multifaceted. LeBron James, Gemini rising, no exception. I believe the article centered on the fact that LeBron James could play any position in the NBA, and a lot of that, I think, is attributed to him having a Gemini ascendant. Now, going back to actors subconsciously being, or at least consciously and or subconsciously being maybe connected to roles that fit their astrological energies. Actor Stacy Keach, Sun in Gemini. Many of you may have remembered he was on a Mike Hammer series where he played a detective. In a number of the episodes, it would show Stacy Keach trying to find a woman that he saw at a distance. And it seemed like the woman would always elude his let's say capture, but he always eluded him, and he wasn't never able to completely catch up with her and speak with her. It would almost like she'd be dissipating and vanishing into thin air. Gemini is a sign, oddly enough, that is Gemini is often said to be looking for that true or elusive love, and they could be searching for a very long period. And it's interesting. It just seems like that just really fit his astrological sun sign. That scene that they would constantly, though that sequence they would show a lot with him trying going after a woman, and then when she would turn a corner or whatever, she wouldn't be there. And a lot of that I think was symbolic maybe in the show. I'm not 100% sure on that he was somebody that was looking for his true love, and he wasn't able to really be able to pin one down, or to be able to find one for whatever reason. So I really, I think that's what that could have been as well. But anyway, another example too, as far as Gemini celebrities go, Jack Nicklaus, he's a legendary former golfer, has a Gemini moon, and it was funny. He was being interviewed one day. The moon is really connected with the response of the reactionary side of us. And he was on some, I know it wasn't really an interview. I think he was just, he was with some other people talking about various golf subjects or what have you, and he had somebody had asked him something, and he rambled on for a while, and then he actually said when he was done responding, he went on for a pretty good period, and then he's like, I talk so much, something like I talk so much I forgot what the question was. Well, if that's not a typical Gemini moon type response, and the fact that what he was actually talking about, I mean, I don't know what is. I mean, Gemini, I mean, the moon, as you know, is reactionary, it's responsive. Gemini moon people, I'm sure, I mean, I have Gemini moon, as many of you may know, and the responses sometimes can go on for a while, and sometimes people will be waiting, well, when is this person going to be coming up for air, so to speak? So anyway, well, another example too, I want to go back again, going on to Gemini moon tangent here, that as far as actors and actresses go, actor Peter Fonda has a Gemini Ascendant, and he was in some movie entitled Race with the Devil, and some people were chasing him and his friends or whatever throughout the movie, and during that movie, he was constantly outsmarting them, outwitting them, and it just showed a lot of, I think, that Gemini energy was coming out, and Gemini rising energy coming out in the movies. And as I've stated before, I do strongly believe, not to be overly redundant about this, but I strongly believe that people, I mean, that actors and actresses often do gravitate toward roles that on a subconscious or if not conscious level in some cases correspond with their astrological energy. And another thing I want to talk about also, a person many of you may know, and I forget the name of the show, but it's the guy who calls himself Mr. Bean on the show. His actual name is Rowan Atkinson, and he was on I guess it was one of those Mr. Bean shows or episodes, and he has a Gemini moon. He showed a little bit of the mischievous qualities in it, and I remember one episode that he was at some place where they were having some extravaganza, or was some party or something going on, and on his way out he just decided to turn the lights on everybody. And I mean, I'm sure he's done similar things like that on other episodes. I think it's a little bit that mischievous side coming out of him, that Gemini moon perhaps being expressed. And last but not least, many of you have remembered or heard about the late great John F. Kennedy, and he had a Gemini Sun. And Gemini is known for speaking very rapidly, very quickly. And John F. Kennedy, according to one blog, spoke 327 words in 1 minute, and at least at one time. And I'm not even sure if the average person even speaks 150 words per minute. I mean, Gemini often, I mean, they're being so verbose, being not just loquacious and talkative. Gemini, he'll talk so much, and sometimes Gemini often will finish sentences for other people as well, because they just want them, they're like, okay, I know what you're saying, or I know the second part of the sentence already, come on, spit it out, because their thoughts are in some accelerated speed, while everybody, you know, compared to them is almost stuck in neutral or in slow motion. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for Gemini Celebrities. Stay tuned next time, where I'm going to be talking about what I believe is the least dangerous zodiac sign. Many of you may have remembered I did that video on about what I believed, in my opinion, was the most dangerous zodiac sign. I'm going to talk about what I think is the least dangerous zodiac sign. And of course, it does apply to the sun, moon, and ascendant. Anyway, people, two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.